If it's all right with you, we'll start just a few minutes early because I very rudely really need to leave at 5:30, and I told that to David. He said, well, it's up to me to have a fast meeting. So here we go. Hold on to your hats. Welcome, everybody. If it's all right with you, we'll start. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today is the traditional land. Really need to leave at 5:30, and I told that to David. He said, well, it's up to me to have a fast meeting. So here we go. Hold on to your hats. Oh, that is creepy. Welcome, everybody. If it's all right with you, we'll start. We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today is the traditional land. Really need to leave at 5:30, and I told that to David. He said, well, it's up to me to have a fast meeting. So here we go. Hold on to your hats. Of country. We'd like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today is the traditional lands of the Gawler people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Gawler people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Gawler people today. And we have a late apology from Deb Good. So are there any motions to grant leave of absence? No? No leave of absence and no non-attendance. Any declarations of interest in the coming agenda? No? We'll confirm the minutes. Would someone like to move the confirmation of the minutes, please? Thank you, Karen. Seconded by Di. Any discussion? There not being any, those in favour, please show. Against, carried unanimously. Right, 6.1. Jacinta, would you like to?
Thank you, Chair. This is the quarterly report of the heritage inquiries that have come through to the centre via either phone or email. I just would like to bring the committee to the committee's attention a couple of them that are from interstate, which is always pleasing to see.
Yeah, I've circled a few of them. I mean, there's 2 from interstate, isn't there? 1 from Queensland and what's 3? Victoria. And 5453 and 5501, 5606, that's a fair way out too, isn't it? So we've got people coming from all over. Sorry, any discussion?
Through the chair, excellent, I'm really pleased. Have we had some thought about perhaps doing at some point, not necessarily immediately, some type of customer survey? For example, how have they found out about the collection, and some feedback, perhaps positive and negative and whatever, might be worth thinking about.
Through the Chair, thank you for that suggestion. We have just implemented a customer feedback survey for visitors to the research centre so that we can get some feedback from that, but we haven't yet as done that, so I'll take that on board and we'll formulate a way to best do that.
We don't have to formally vote on this, do we? We do. Okay. Would someone like to vote? Thank you, Karen. Acceptance of this. Thank you, Helen. Any further discussion? Not. Those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Right, 6.2. Cultural Heritage Centre budget. David, would you like to talk us through this?
So yes, through the chair, the budget's tracking very well year to date, end of December, with little expenditure. That's because the majority of the expenditure happens around the exhibition, which is currently about to be installed, and Jacinta will provide a verbal update about the exhibition later in the agenda today. Happy to take any questions on the report, but it's tracking well on budget, and it will do the same as we move to the end of the financial year as well, because we've got it all planned in and actually costed for the exhibition, etc.
Thank you, David. Would someone like to move the acceptance of that report? Karen, and then seconded Di. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. And discussion.
Yes, through the chair. The Hyson exhibition. Was that within this budget or another budget? Thank you.
So through the chair, it's within this budget, but it's after the period of this report, which is to the end of December. So it'll be picked up in the next quarterly update.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll move on to the next item. Recent collection acquisitions. Jacinta, do you want to talk us? Oh, sorry, Di, beg your pardon. Yes, absolutely.
Is it possible to have some sort of information about the CD for the 1880 United States Census and National Index?
Through the chair, this report details the recent acquisitions to the collection that fall under the procedures manual, so they're all valued at less than $1,500. These will all go into the local history collection. That census, it's a database on CD for people who are looking for relations in the United States. So for a lot of the immigrants from the 1850s onwards, some family members went to the United States and some family members went to Australia. So these were offered to us free of charge. We have had people looking for that information before, so that just facilitates our ability to support the community in getting a more rounded family history for their work.
Thank you. I just couldn't see the reference to Gawler.
Sorry to gazump you on that, but there's a lot of people who went looking for gold in Victoria had also been earlier to have a look at gold in the United States. So there's a bit of you can track movement that way as well. And then later, their next generation went to Western Australia. So it is interesting.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll move on. Pardon? Oh, sorry, I thought we had. Beg your pardon. Thank you, Di. And a seconder, please, Helen. Those in favour, please show. Against, carry.
Can I just want to provide some feedback. It's great to see that we're continuing to have incoming materials, particularly, and the range is quite impressive as well. Particularly good to see that we're continuing to have donations of the books for the local history collection. But I noticed there's some textiles, the flag and the quilt coming in as well, because that adds to a fairly impressive collection that we've already got. And in some collections, people would be concerned with that, but well maintained and well managed, where it really is going to add to what we have. So excellent.
Right, thank you, Helen. 6.4, request for permission to publish. Jacinta.
Thank you, Chair. This is another request for permission to publish an unpublished image from the collection. This is an interesting one in that the person has indicated that they would like to put this image on Ancestry, which is a database, as we all know, that's very large and well utilised, but would be very well outside of our control in any format once it's there. It's an international database. The object that the lady has requested is a copybook, which is like this. It's examples of a child's handwriting. These are family members of hers. That we have quite a large collection, 2 big boxes of them. The National Trust has a large collection that they make available to people who are family researchers. So the objects in of themselves have little value outside that immediate family. However, they are, as I said, they're outside, they're unpublished, they're not in the public domain. Ancestry presents great opportunities to publicise our collection internationally and interstate, but that needs to be balanced by the lack of control that we would have. I did, just as a note of interest, we've had 10 interstate visitors to the research centre since we reopened in January 4th. So we are drawing people from far and wide to come and see the collection and use the facilities, which is very, very pleasing. So we could look at this as a possibility of broadening the knowledge of the Gawler History Collection internationally, or we could be concerned about the fact that this is a database well and truly outside of our control, even though the objects in of themselves are not particularly unique and special apart to that family member. So staff are looking for guidance from the committee on how they think this should be handled.
Thank you, Jacinta. Discussion? Are the images on eHive yet?
Through the chair, no, the images are not on eHive. So through the chair, when these images go on eHive, they'll simply be a small image of the cover. We don't put an entire document on eHive. This lady is looking for a reproduction of all of the pages from her family. So there's 10 pages inside there that would be in there, which is a potential income generating. We charge $15 a page for images that we reproduce. So there is a potential income upside to this.
Thank you. This one has given me quite a lot of thought about the process, and I've actually phoned and had an additional discussion with Jacinta. First of all, I think it's great to see the process working, and I honour the fact that the woman has used the process and been honest in what she wants to do. I like the fact that we can look at these requests on a case-by-case basis, and I think that is the protection for us going forward. I guess it was the third party, the Ancestry one, that caused me to think deeply on it. But having looked at what other libraries and what other collections to do, and the fact that this is just one image of one, it's a fairly, to their family, very significant, but not necessarily unique or great historic value. I guess that's a bit clumsy, but I think you understand what I'm saying. I think we should use this as a marketing and publicity campaign, and I think we provide the image with some statement of origin that we request that when it goes to the database is put there as well, and use that as a way to publicise that if your family is involved or something similar, then this is how. So maybe it would be the name of the collection and perhaps even an address or contact. So I'm on that basis, I'm happy to support the recommendation that we give permission to the lady to do it.
Yeah, look, I was of a similar thought, and I agree with Helen. The fact that it's family specific, I think that's important, and the fact that it's coming to this committee for approval, I think that's a good good control mechanism that we can put in place. I'm happy to support it.
I'd just like to say that this is a one-off. You're not, Ancestry is not getting our collection. They would have to approach us and then pay to actually scan everything, and they're not going to do that. The fact that this will go into a family collection basically will only be picked up by other family members. But if we are advertising that, they might then learn that they can check for other family documentation, and then it'll bring people back to board.
Listening. Yeah, thanks for that discussion. I think there is a good step-by-step process and checking process through this committee. However, I think depending on how many more requests we get that would potentially want to put things up on Ancestry, at that point, I'd be a bit concerned about an open slather. I don't think it's open slather now. However, I have some caution in my mind about at what point do we get concerned, and I think as a committee, we need to think about that. But yeah, I think a case by case, and sometimes you can get lost in previous examples. So it would also be good to say, well, if we are being asked to publish articles or pictures on different forums, if we can have just a list of what we've done previously. So it gives us a bit of a refresher and also a spatial view of, yes, we've done that 10 times or we've only done it once. So that would be my only comments. I'm sorry, Margaret.
I'd just like to say that National Trust has got a much bigger collection of the copybooks, and that you've got no control over what we do with them. And at this stage, people know that we've got them. We haven't had anyone asking for copies. When they do, yes, we'll give them copies.
Thank you, Margaret. Can I just clarify something? The internal images in those books is just children's handwriting, is it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I thought they. That's what I thought they were. Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's just one other thing. You mentioned, Jacinta, a lack of control, and I'm not sure what that means. Could you enlarge on that?
So through the chair and the other request that came to publish to the committee, we put clear parameters around the number of books being published, what they were for use. Well, Ancestry is an international company. Once people put their data up there, and that's the terms and conditions they sign when they do that, the data is free for all to share, depending on the privacy settings that family or that member might have put on there. So realistically, we will have no control over that.
If I may just follow up, I'm sorry about this, committee, but I'm confused a bit. Why is that a problem?
So through the chair, the images may end up in a variety of formats that we don't know about. So there's always potential for that, but they may. In the previous request that came to the committee, there was a set number of books being produced. We knew that they were going to family members. We knew that they were going to the State Library, and we have a signed document that says should that author wish to produce more, then that request needs to come back to the committee and therefore council. With this, once this person has put the image on Ancestry, as depending on their settings, on their page on Ancestry, people can then go in there and simply take a screensaver shot of that image if they should want to.
Most people wouldn't even know it was on a page unless they go to that page for their own particular research.
And I think in this instance, I think we're quite satisfied, but there has been instances where articles or pictures have ended up in books for sale and council has not received any recompense. And so that lack of control is something we need to beat, because this collection is also an opportunity to promote but also generate income for the community, for the council, and by default the ratepayer. So I think there's a clear link. When somebody's using a significant article, maybe without permission, which wouldn't happen now, and then they have a $100 book or whatever it is, I have a problem with that because there's steps they should have gone through which they didn't. Now they'll go through those steps, and so I think checking to see what people are doing and on what basis they wish to publish for personal, I think that's quite reasonable. But again, having that discussion and being satisfied that we're prepared to let go of control. It's not particularly, in this instance, it's not a particularly significant issue, but some of our more rare objects, we need to think very carefully about that, because that then detracts from our capacity to bring people to have a look if they've seen it or it's in a book or whatever. It may, in fact, negatively impact our capacity to promote certain exhibitions, for example. So it certainly is for more significant items, and we need to be aware of what those significant items are. Yeah, and having this discussion is important because it then clarifies in our mind we're comfortable. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Karen, because that actually really answered what my concerns were. I couldn't quite follow why why we were so worried about a book about children's handwriting, but which is anonymous anyway. So that's, yeah, thank you. That's good. Any other discussion? Helen?
I just support the Mayor's suggestion of having some record of the decision making, so we've got a precedent, because at some point in the future it might be that our decision is challenged, and we would, if we have that precedence recorded, it will show a very clear policy and decision making, which may go some way to abating any challenges that we have. Thank you.
Through the chair, I will create a database of all of these, and each time I present a report, I will insert the database in there. What I will record is the previous decisions of the committee. I'm wondering if there's anything else that you would like me to try and obtain from the person requesting. I can put postcodes in, but is there any other information the committee think would help flesh out that database for future reference?
Off the top of my head, maybe just the aim of the request is personal or ancestry. So which database is it going to? Which forum? Is it a public domain? I don't know, you don't want to go overboard, but just so you've got a bit of clarity about where that image will end up and who will have access to it, I think, and the aim of the request.
How does this link in with the copyright laws?
So through the chair, the photographs that we provide of these books are the copyright of council. The books aren't in copyright, but the photographs that staff take belong to council, and so those photographs are in copyright.
So just for clarification, sorry, when we provide the image, we have some conditions that go with it, because, I mean, this person has been very honest, but a lot of people could just buy an image and do as they wish. So I'm presuming we've covered ourselves by stating the purpose for which it has been. Thank you.
Is there any way we can include in the motion that this is a one-off and not a precedent for future people, future requests?
Well, it may not be a one-off, that's the point. We may get many more requests. You're talking from this person, just this person, okay.
So through the chair, our policy in terms of permissions to publish, every permission request needs to come through this committee. So the committee will see them all in the future as it is. As the chair's pointed out, may not be a one-off, but we consider each request on a case-by-case basis. Yep.
Just occurred to me that one of the things we might like to do is ask the people who are seeking this sort of information and copies of things to sign a stat dec about what they're doing.
So through the chair, they do sign a request for permission to publish, and then when that's granted, we sign that as well. That states the conditions. This particular person has stated on that form that it's for an ancestry database, and that's the aim behind it that I've brought to the committee for that background information.
Anyone else like to discuss that? Now, did we vote on this? I can't remember, did we?
No, so through the chair, I believe, Helen, you moved the first part for the permission be granted, but we're seeking a seconder to that.
Okay, so Paul seconding. Those in favour, please show. Against? Carried. Thank you. And thank you, Jacinta and David, for your input too, by the way. Okay, consultations external to council. Now, we've done those, haven't we? Any comments on those? Yeah, it was the end of that, wasn't it? Okay, item 7. We've done all those. And item 8. Items listed for discussion at future meetings. Oh, on 7, sorry, beg your pardon. Where are I'm lost. Consultation external. Exhibition update.
Through the chair. As the committee is aware, I've distributed some preliminary plans, and I thank you for the feedback. It was passed on to Synthetic Creative, the designers. We hoping to have some draft text panels for distribution by the end of next week. So that would give an idea of the large panels that will be in the exhibition. There are less large panels in this than some previous exhibitions because there are some bigger objects. So I look forward to your feedback on those so we can pass that on. We have had discussions, preliminary discussions with the SA Museum about the return of the emu net and also with Ghana. There are cultural protocols involved in those sorts of loans back to other institutions. So I'm speaking to Uncle Jeffrey again early next week and we'll have more idea about how that will proceed then. But Uncle Jeffrey has indicated that he is supportive and the museum have indicated that the object is safe to travel. And so they have said, assuming Ghana is supportive, then they will support this application as well. We're looking at opening the exhibition on the 24th of March. I've checked the Mayor's diary with her PA and at this stage she's available. So that's after the Fringe. Town of Gawler has put on the biggest Fringe program yet this year, so we didn't want to impact on that. 24th of Feb, sorry. 24th of March. Sorry, yeah, 24th of March.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's losing
Yes,
their marbles.
yes. So that won't be impacting on the Fringe program. We're looking at bringing out Fire the Cannon on Wednesday next week. If you remember, we have a very big plinth. The piano is on and the wall of treasures, the large long wall of treasures in the gallery, both of those are bolted into the wall. So there's going to be quite a bit of rectification, patching and painting work that we need to do. So there'll be quite a big gap for this exhibition. There won't be for subsequent exhibitions that with this Golden Land is not going to impact on the walls at all. So, but this Into the Night did. So we just need to rectify that and get the gallery back to a pristine space before we start putting the new objects in. So that's happening. If I can just update, the Hyson exhibition had 70 people to the opening and so far the numbers are 350 through. We do have a counter. It doesn't capture everyone because people can enter from different directions, but it gives us an indication of what's happening in there. And also in terms of exhibitions, it's our intention to have a workshop with the committee at the March meeting to develop themes for the next few exhibitions so that then staff can go back and look at the objects in the collection that would support those themes, present a report to the committee and have some clarity about the next couple of exhibitions. We've got some very talented researchers working as volunteers who are very keen to start doing the research and work on that. So that will give us a strong forward plan moving forward. So I look forward to a vigorous discussion about what we can use from the collection and the stories of Gawler and bring to the community in the next few years.
Thank you, Jacinta. Any discussion?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. The timing is always difficult, so it's a bit disappointing that there won't be an exhibition during the Fringe, because I think the Fringe is going to bring some people into the building that don't normally come. So I suspect we're going to need a very large marketing saying coming soon. So they actually won't be able to enter. How far will they be able to get? They'll be able to get all the way to the doors of the exhibition and they'll be locked. Or will you be locking it at the corridor?
So through the chair, the corridor is a public space, so we'll be locking the doors of the gallery because that will be a workspace. There will be workers in there.
Anybody else? No? I'm sorry, I've jumped one. Updated motion list. So people want to have a look at that. Any discussion on this? Right, draft economic development strategy.
Can I just go back? I just wanted to, I've had some outstanding positive responses to the Hyson opening and the display itself. I think it's one of the things bringing in a travelling exhibition is that it's educated the community. So I was startled when at least 2, maybe 3 different groups of people said, but we were expecting to see original Hysons. And I think they've been to Jacinta, to which my quick off the top of the head was, unless we'd had an armed security guard, there
And
was no,
about 1 million insurance.
absolutely. So, and to balance that, a number of local artists came and looked at the way the travelling exhibition had been put together, the structure of the boxes, the wheels, the audio visual, and were really impressed. And I think it's, from their point of view, got a few cogs moving as well. So I think it's sometimes we educate the community in ways that we weren't expecting to. It's not simply the man and his story and his paintings. We've educated them in a couple of other factions as well. So well done. Congratulations. I think it's a brilliant start to hopefully a long history of travelling exhibitions.
Yeah, I agree. It's brilliant. All right. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Any further discussion of the updated motion? Just no. Draft economic development strategy.
Yes, thank you. Somebody said to me, do you read every council document? And I'd like to reassure you that I don't. But this one, because of the way perhaps right back at the beginning when the early discussions of why we'd go about spending all that money in rejuvenating the centre, one of the very important points was the Gawler Heritage Collection was unique and was going to be an economic driver. And in fact, the whole building was going to help the economic development of Gawler. In subtle ways, perhaps, but certainly because of its position and status in the main street, very, very important that we do that. So going through that document, you can see that the word heritage, and I've deliberately gone through and highlighted it. So whoever's created the economic strategy has certainly used the term heritage. So I think it behoves us as a community, as a committee, to have some input, as we did with the tourist plan, just to reinforce council's plans in what they're pretending to do that way. So for that reason, I've just gone through and presented that. It's really a conversation starter, so I leave it to the rest of you.
You don't wish to move anything in relation to it? No. All right. Well, given that Helen's presented this, I presume everyone has seen what she said us. Is there any discussion? Anyone would like to say anything?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think getting feedback from many different sources is really important, and I think that honing this economic development strategy has sort of been moving backwards and forwards for a little while and had different iterations. And so thank you, Helen, for your input. I think it'll be quite important to incorporate your thoughts into what is a bit of a visionary statement and document going forward, because it's really hard sometimes to understand about economic development and what that looks like and what the role of council is, and how that incorporates through community, and is it just a role of business, which clearly it's not, because council drives policy and also can attract large amounts of funding, and anything council does can inject confidence into economics of a local community. Clearly this building is one such example, and the Heritage Centre is a shining example of investment and what it's now delivering as it relates to visitor economy. And that feeds into economic development and the economy of scale for our town, our main street, and all the businesses that may want to set up shop, because they know that all of these facilities are there and they're going to get a lot of people walking past and want to buy their stuff. So it all is connected. One of the points of difference of Gawler is, of course, heritage. Not just history, but built heritage, cultural heritage, stories, Aboriginal culture, all of that feeds into cultural heritage. And so what we have here, remember when we were developing the blueprint for the service, which was Cultural Heritage Centre, we talked about a centre of excellence. We talked about us being the experts, developing expertise in the region as it relates to heritage. And that's exactly what we're doing. And that feeds into an economic development strategy. If you don't articulate that well enough in that strategy, it sort of gets a bit lost. And when you develop these documents, when you're going for grant funding, even though the grant funding might get cut by a third by certain federal ministers, the allegedly, these documents feed into grant applications, and they feed into regional reports that then feed into huge opportunities to get external money. And businesses, CoreLogic, for example, look at what Gawler is doing, and that we were mentioning the Weekend Australian about a month ago as one of the shining examples. I can't remember what for, but we were one of the places to watch for real estate. Sorry? Livability, thank you. So they look at all these documents. So if we have a really clear statements around how we value built heritage, why it's so important, for example, our main street, which is probably the best example of 19th century architecture in the state, if not in the country, purely because we still have so much structure here that it's beautiful. And we take it for granted sometimes. Church Hill, for example, how beautiful are the slate curbing, thank you. And you don't see that everywhere. So that type of thing people love. You go overseas, they don't go and look at a 60s shopping centre, unless, of course, it's mid-century architecture, then that's different. They go and look at old villages that were thankfully left alone and now are reaping the benefits, and that's exactly what we will. So how we use our built heritage, how we preserve it, and how we also adapt it for reuse, like we did for these buildings. So it's not just preserving like for like, it's also how we use them going forward and how we support business in leveraging heritage to make their business successful.
Thank you, Karen. Anyone else want to? No? Well, thank you, Helen, too, for your input.
Well, I did at the end have a draft recommendation. Before I suggest that we look at that perhaps more intense, David, did you want to have any input?
So through the chair, definitely heritage and the arts is one of those competitive advantages in Gawler, and it's identified in the strategy as such. It does feature, I think it's just under the top 5, but very close to top 5 industries within the economics of Gawler. The number 1 industry in Gawler is actually construction as per the last census data. And then number 2 is in health, and then retail comes in, education below that, and then heritage and arts and recreation are sort of paralleling underneath that. So there's definitely industry in Gawler around heritage and the arts. The collection itself is a component of a tourism product and also a driver for visitation to this building. The collection is one component of our heritage and the arts industry. This building's another component, as the Mayor's mentioned, the heritage buildings across the township, state heritage places, all those things all deliver into that status. So it's definitely vital that we recognise it in the strategy, which I believe we have because it's a higher level in terms of the strategic elements, and then the actions underneath will draw in the connections to the collection. So that's where I see the collection coming in, is down at the lower level action end of it, rather than at the strategic end, because the collection is just one subset of the entire heritage and arts economy.
Thank you, David. Helen, you've got my suggestions are. Do you want to turn that into I move that?
Yeah, but I might just, given David's feedback, and I did get a sense that this was a high-level document and there'd be actions coming from it. So perhaps I might change that we note the report and then merge the 2 and 3 into a more general things, is something along the line, happy to have some wordsmithing here, that we look forward to be considered as stakeholders in the actions that come from this report. That's, I think, when I think about it, with both the tourism and the economic, I just want this committee to be a stakeholder, to be updated, consulted, and have the ability to input. So that would probably that would probably be happy to do.
Can I make a suggestion? That the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee be added as stakeholders. Does it need to be in the actions, David? No. As stakeholders. Can't hear what
So
you're
through
saying.
the chair, if the Gawler Heritage can be added as stakeholders within the draft economic development strategy is a valid point. I take your point about noting the strategy. The committee notes the draft strategy. So that would be point one, that the committee be added as a stakeholder within that strategy. In terms of the tourism plan, that's actually been adopted, and that was adopted in late 2018, I think it was. So we can't really influence that document itself, but the Heritage Committee was part of that feedback mechanism. But in the updates we could, so that's a future discussion. And
third point that says once the because this will go back and get endorsed. It won't go out for public consultation again, will it?
it's already been out for consultation,
Yeah,
so this
so
is
it'll
the
come
end
back.
of consultation.
Yeah, so-
The intention is that the strategy be presented to council at its February meeting, so in a couple of weeks,
And
seeking endorsement. Yep.
so be added as stakeholder within, and any updates to both the any updates to any updates to the economic strategy, or future updates to the economic strategy and tourism plan come back to the committee for stakeholder feedback. Any future updates, because they'll be updated, they'll be reviewed.
Yes, that is true. So through the chair, it might be worthwhile
review.
just to say that the committee be identified as a key stakeholder in the formulation of any updates to. I'm just conscious of the remit of the committee and reporting to this committee is really very much about the collection. So these plans and reports don't necessarily come as reports to the committee. However, through the process of developing a new strategy, the committee could be invited as a stakeholder. So there would be a direct reporting coming through, but an invitation to participate in the consultation and development. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm trying to formulate the resolutions in that regard. So I can work with Sarah on that and just give us a moment.
It's a bit clunky at the moment.
Thank you, David. I'm happy with that. Happy to propose that.
Thank you, Helen. Someone second it, please? Margaret, any discussion? Already had quite a bit, haven't we? All right, so those in favour, please show. Against? Carried, thank you. And thank you again, Helen. 7.4, independent community representation, 2000.
Yes, through the chair, just an update in this. The independent community representatives on the committee are appointed for a 2-year term. This committee was appointed in terms of the independent representatives in May 2019. So due to being 2-year term, your term ends on the 27th of May 2021. A report is being presented to council at the February council meeting outlining the expression of interest process, the proposed process for council's consideration, including advertising of the availability to come onto the committee, all those sort of aspects and the process to that, with the end result being that new independent committee members be recommended to council for appointment at its May council meeting, with the first meeting of the new committee being in June. So it's just a process. Independent members are invited to resubmit if they're interested in staying on. There's no reason why they can't. In the event we have too many applications for roles, so there's 4 independent members on the committee availability. If in the event we have too many, then there'll be a shortlisting and panel assessment of the applications by council staff, and I believe Mayor Redmond's on that committee in the normal circumstances. So it'll be the Mayor, myself and Jacinta as the proposed assessment panel. All this is going through to council in February. I just wanted to alert the committee of the process that's being undertaken in advance of the council meeting, noting that it's literally a procedural thing and we have to do it to regenerate and revitalise the committee on a 2-yearly basis.
Thank you, David. Items listed for discussion at future meetings. Anybody got any? I've noted that we're going to try and do a workshop on the 11th of March. So I'm just wondering what structure that will take in terms of the meeting as well. Have you got any suggestions about timeline or how long that will take? Or?
So through the chair, rather than being a formal workshop as such, our staff recommendation would be that we hold the meeting, and within the meeting we can suspend meeting procedures to have a more informal discussion about those future exhibition opportunities. So to be within the meeting timeframe. I think that's the process we undertook when we last did this. So we'd seek to be undertaking the same process at that meeting.
Thank you.
Will we require additional time?
So through the chair, I don't believe so, because of our reporting cycle. I don't believe in our pipeline there's many reports as such to that meeting. So it'll allow us quite a significant amount of time.
Thank you, David. So moving on to questions without notice. Are there any? No. Motions without notice? No. Well, I'll close the meeting. 55. So earlier than I thought. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Hopefully the temperature's dropped a bit.